Usually this comes out as a top 5 of the day. But you know, when results get better, I think news cycles slow down just a little bit. The better things are, the last thing you need to do is link every guy and his mother to your club to solve the problems, because there are less problems. And I also think all the media and publications are still soaking in the aftermath of a dominating El Clasico win, and Barcelona's, we'll say, most heartfelt and biggest victory in multiple seasons. So the top 5 in this week is less rumors and hyperbole, and more actual substantial news and things that are happening at the club, which I think is a good thing. It makes this a better video to make. So here we go, the top 5 things that you need to know from this week. But before we do get to number 1, I just want to officially thank everybody on the channel for helping us hit 10,000 subscribers. That was certainly my bonus piece of news for the week that I got to enjoy after El Clasico. And what a way to do it, right? A 4-0 victory in El Clasico, and that was what finally pushed us over the edge of 10,000. So thank you to everyone who subscribed already, and make sure you subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any of the videos, podcasts, because even in this international break, I'm making content here. So now, without further ado, let's do it. News piece number 1 is Franck Kessie on a free. It seems like this is all done and dusted and wrapped up. The physical has already been done, and he will be, that being the Ivory Coast midfielder, will be a Barcelona player next season. Looks like he's joining on a €6.5 million net salary plus add-ons as a free agent with a contract until 2026, which, not to alarm you, is only 4 years away when Kessie will be 29. Xavi apparently called him, so I guess he ignored my request from Boubacar Kamara from Marseille, and unfortunately, maybe Tchouaméni is indeed going to Madrid. But Xavi has been right every other time so far with transfers, so I'm going to trust him on the Kessie transfer as well. And plus, Torre also called Kessie to sign for Barcelona, so there has been some pretty good Kool-Aid influence on Kessie's decision. And how will Kessie fit in the Barcelona midfield? That's the million-dollar question, is it? Or the €6.5 million question, now isn't it? I don't think I have time in this video to get into answering that. I think it would take a long-form video, or how about a podcast? Because it's already been recorded, it's coming out tomorrow, and we go on a deep dive with some guys from Milan all about Franck Kessie and the player that Barcelona are getting on a free this summer. I want to thank OneFootball for sponsoring this video. OneFootball is the app I use to keep myself up to date on all things FC Barcelona, everything I need to know, as well as check on every other team that Alemany could be scouting right now for a big summer transfer window. With a custom-tailored homepage, stay up to date with breaking news, live scores, and even transfer news. While on the go, you can check with matches in live time and watch videos afterwards. Use the link in the description for a free download of OneFootball on Android or iOS to put all of your football in one place. And you'll help out a tiny Barca channel too. Thanks to OneFootball again for sponsoring this video. Now back to the Barca business. News piece 2 is that the Femení looked human against Madrid. It's this weird world that we live in. It's a bizarre world where, unfortunately, with the Femení, you go into it with some negative vibes because they won 3-1 in the Champions League in the first leg on the road. That's the expectations they have built for themselves, and that's the standard that they expect of themselves. But I think it's more shock than anything. It's not disappointment, it's shock. It was quite a surprise. Well, at least it was 45 minutes of surprise as the Femení found themselves down to Real Madrid 1-0 in the first leg of their Champions League matchup, taking place at the Alfredo Di Stefano Stadium. We've talked a lot about the 90,000 people that will be filling the Camp Nou for next week's leg 2 of this tie, but leg 1 was one that the Femení had to struggle through. They're going to expect to put on a better performance next week than the one they did in Madrid. Esther Gonzalez was fantastic for Madrid in the first half, and Olga Carmona got them their goal in the 8th minute. It took a controversial VAR check on Caroline Graham-Hansen being fouled in the box, and Alexia Putellas converting it to tie it up in the 53rd minute. Still, even the goal couldn't wake Barca up, at least until the final 15 minutes or so. At that point, the pressure from Barca reached its normal levels, and Claudio Pina scored off a rebound to put Barca ahead. Then, in the seconds before the game ended, Alexia potentially sealed Barca's passage to the next round with her second of the night. And after that kind of performance, let's not count our chickens before they hatch for next Wednesday. But also, I wouldn't want to be Madrid next week after this kind of performance from the Femení. I think there will be a dominant response. 3 is that Pedri gets the 10 shirt for Spain. There isn't a lot of international news just yet because the international games are just getting underway today. But the big news is that Pedri is the Barca international that has so far made the biggest news, getting that number 10 shirt for Spain. After starting at the Euros and the Olympics, he's been given the 10 shirt, a jersey that has been worn by the likes of Cesc Fabregas and the Spanish Luis Suarez all the way back at the 1964 Euros. Pedri isn't the only Barca player out on international duty, though. He joins Ferran Torres, Gavi, Eric Garcia, and Jordi Alba with Spain for games against Albania and Iceland. Memphis and Frankie de Jong with the Netherlands, Ter Stegen with Germany, Dani Alves with Brazil, Nico Gonzalez and Arnau Tanasa with the Spain U21s. Ez Abde has decided to represent Morocco internationally, and Sergiño Dest was called up to the US for their 3 qualifiers, even though he is unfit to play and will not be featuring, obviously. 4 is that Renewal's update about Araujo, Gavi, and Dembele, and I think the biggest news from this week does surround Araujo. This is clearly the priority for the club at the moment, with the other 2 not necessarily in a standstill. We'll get to that in a second. But in the case of Ronald Araujo, it seems like things have moved forward in a positive direction, or at least down the road. It's hard to know where the renewal sits at present time. You're hearing conflicting reports. The latest one being that he was offered a €5 million salary, which more than triples or 5 times what his salary is right now. That news coming from Catalonia Radio, so maybe you can trust it a little bit. Even though his contract is still a year away from expiring, it seems to be the priority for the club right now. But it's also been reported that the number that Barça are offering is one that they're unable to increase due to their finances and issues in the future. And even at triple or 5 times his current salary, he's still likely receiving offers that are much more than that from the EPL. Next up is Gavi. There are no new updates for his renewal. It seems like the club is trying to go domino by domino, and Gavi's number might be dictated by the Araujo number just a bit, but also at Gavi's age and with his contract still having a year plus on it as well. It seems like the club and the player and his representatives understand that it's a process. This will get done in due time. Gavi wants to stay at the club, but ultimately neither side seems to be in a great hurry to necessarily get this one done by April or May or June. This will likely probably even be done for Gavi sometime over the summer. And finally, in the case of Dembele, it seems like a small door has opened just that little bit for some hope for those who want Dembele to return, which I think at this point should be most Kool-Aids. Even with everything that's happened, the way he's playing for the club right now under Xavi is an indication that very few players in the world could even hope to replace him. So getting him on a reasonable deal, and that's going to be the question moving forward, of course, and that's been the question this whole time. But club vice president Rafa Yuste made some comments that indicate with the way things are working out for Dembele under Xavi, both sides could try again. But honestly, it's hard to imagine both sides meeting in the middle when they were so far apart for months. And I think there is something to the links to Leeds United winger Raphinha. He could cost around €40 million, but that number could be radically decreased in the unlikely circumstance that Leeds are relegated from the Premier League. It's possible, but I don't necessarily think that's going to happen. But it also seems like the Raphinha camp is excited about the potential of coming to Barcelona. So with how strong those Raphinha rumors are, it does make me believe that Dembele, especially with his representatives saying, hey, if Barca wants to open up dialogue, the ball's in their court. Well, Barcelona have been trying to put the ball in the court of Dembele's representatives for quite a few weeks and months now. So I'm not sure how that standstill is going to end, but I've also talked for months and months now about where I stand on Dembele's contract and renewal. 5 is Ilias Akhomach and Pablo Torre. I know it seems like a lifetime ago, but Xavi's first game in charge, do you remember who that front 3 was? In that 1-0 win against Espanyol, it was Ez Abde on the left, it was Memphis Depay in the middle, and on the left, it was 17-year-old Ilias Akhomach, who made 2 appearances for the first team this season under Xavi. Since that game, the right winger has been making regular appearances for Barcelona B and dropping down to Juvenil A when possible. After the brace to impress Xavi in November, he's got just 1 more goal for Barca B coming in January and no assists. Finishing product has been a question for the youngster, who is set to turn 18 in a few weeks. But I would remind you that Xavi doesn't necessarily look for his right winger to score, but he has to have the one-on-one ability to unsettle a back line. He is still a work in progress for sure, but at least he brought his scoring boost to the Spain U19s, where he played 75 minutes and scored a goal in a 2-2 draw in Austria. Soon-to-be teammate Pablo Torre played the whole match as the attacking midfielder and focal point of the attack. Barca B has fallen on some rough times under Sergi Barjuan this season, but my hope is that between Ilias Akhomach taking another step forward and Pablo Torre's arrival from Racing Santander over the summer, that these two are going to oscillate between the first team and Barca B next season and take the B team, we'll say, back to new heights where they've been over the last few seasons under Pimienta. And one more time on our bonus piece of news at the start, 10,000 subscribers is what we hit after the review for El Clasico. So thank you so much to everybody that has been with us on this journey. If you made it this far in the video and are not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Because I don't want you to miss that podcast all about Franck Kessie tomorrow. So subscribe to the channel so you don't miss some of that conversation, or find that podcast wherever you listen to your podcasts. And as always, until next time, enjoy the international break and Força Barça.